So, Flyers fans have been on me anytime I talk about general managers or teams about my opinion on Ron Hextall. Here's the thing. The Flyers have a lot of good prospects, and there's a lot of things that Hextall's done well, but the results haven't shown yet. To me, it's almost like I'm not going to criticize him. I'm not going to say anything bad about him because there's nothing bad to say. But I have yet to see how all of these puzzle pieces are going to fit together. And then, yes, when these guys come into the lineup, and if they're ready and they're good, and he's done as good a job drafting as it looks like he has, and developing guys as it looks like he has, then absolutely, his status among GMs goes up in my eyes. Hextall's a guy who I didn't always like as a player. Sometimes I felt like he was a bully in the net. But I respected him by the time he was done playing. I respected him a lot. I respected him for taking the verbal abuse from the Madison Square Garden crowd and still coming out. When other goalies would have said, you know what, just don't play me tonight, Hextall still went out there. And you got to be old to remember that. At least by internet standards. Now, Hextall came out today and said Nolan Patrick has to earn a spot in the lineup. So why should I make a video about that? Because there are too many GMs, I think, in this day and age that are leaving roster spots open for kids. Jim Benning was resoundingly criticized by, I believe it was by Sportsnet and TSN, for the fact that he signed a number of guys at the start of July who won't make the Canucks noticeably better on the win-loss sheet of games. They're not going to win a bunch more games because they signed Gagne. They're not going to win a bunch more games because they signed Nelson. Michael Del Zotto's not going to make them a playoff contender. So why bother? Because you don't want to just leave spots open for kids. This is why when I do rosters and people go, well, that second line center spot belongs to that rookie. Not yet, it doesn't. They haven't won a roster spot yet. That's how busts happen. And we don't know until they try to make the NHL which ones are going to be busts. They all look like success stories up front. They all look like, oh, this guy's come out of nowhere and he's going to be great. Hextall seems to get that. Because Hextall's saying, yeah, we haven't given this kid a roster spot yet. He's got to earn it. And he said straight out, he has to prove that he will make our team better. And that he's better than the other kids competing for a job with him. And he says we've got a lot of good kids. And any of them could make this team. What he does with this comment, he motivates Nolan Patrick. And he lets other rookies know who are coming into this camp. And other, maybe an AHL farmhand who's in between. Maybe too good for the NHL, maybe too good for the AHL, maybe not quite ready for the NHL. And maybe they know now, if I outperform that Patrick kid, I get a spot in the lineup. And it's fine. And he even says he is perfectly fine with Nolan Patrick going back to juniors if he needs it. I don't like it when a team looks desperate. I don't like it when I see, okay, this is a roster spot for that rookie, and if he doesn't make it, they're hosed. That's why I like depth signings. That's why I like professional tryout contracts. That's why I like seeing veterans getting another chance to come back. Yes, that veteran could get waived and end up out of the league. But he gets a shot, and it means that the kid coming into the lineup has to beat him for that spot. So it's not a matter of me hating on rookies. I look at, for instance, Tampa. Sergachev. Sergachev likely makes the team. Yes, absolutely. But could he be better served with another year of development? We don't know yet. We're not into that part of training camp yet. We don't know. Maybe he's ready. 100% ready, good to go, and he plays fantastic, and Tampa looks like they've stolen him from Montreal. But it's one of those unknowns, and Ron Hextall seems to be ready for that. Now, it could just be saying the things that he knows he should say to the press. Could absolutely be that behind closed doors he's saying, this kid's making our team. We need him. But I don't think so. because Hextall has never seemed to me like the kind of guy who will just say something to placate the fans or to please the press. It's one thing that I always liked about Brian Burke as a GM. He will tell you what he thinks. And he doesn't care if you're upset about it. He doesn't care if you're offended. He doesn't care if you agree with him. That's his opinion, and that's it. Nothing else matters. That's his opinion, and that's it. For the Flyers, I don't think it's the end of the world if Nolan Patrick needs more development. I don't think it's the end of the world if after the injury problems he had this past regular season, and then he had surgery, and then he had the facial infection, like he's had a lot of things going on. If this has stalled him and caused him to need another year of development, I don't think that kills the Flyers. I don't think that means that the Flyers are a terrible team and they're going to miss the playoffs by 20 points. I think they're still in the mix. Part of what Hextall's been doing is making it so the Flyers are a team of development. The Flyers haven't always been a team of development. There's been plenty of years where it's just bring in hired guns, bring in high-priced guys. Maybe they're over the hill, maybe they're not. We'll just bring in a couple more high-priced guys. I remember the famous quote from Paul Holmgren when they signed a bunch of free agents, a bunch of high-priced guys. And he said the thing he was always scared about with cap space is that nobody would take it. So that's why he had no problem spending to the cap. Because he didn't want to be sitting there with cap space and his roster short on something. Hextall doesn't seem like the kind of guy to do that. And while I respect Paul Holmgren, I really respect what Hextall's doing too. Having guys just take cap space just so you can say, hey, look, I signed people. And I'm not saying Holmgren did that. I'm going to the absolute ludicrous max with this. It does reek of desperation. I remember the one year that Florida signed all the free agents, and it just didn't work. It was Tampa. Tampa signed all the free agents, and it just didn't work. In fact, it backfired. Buffalo brought in a bunch of high-priced talent. It backfired. A lot of these teams that rebuild, it'll be shortly after they try to do a Band-Aid solution and put a bunch of guys in there on high-priced contracts and throw them on the ice. And then it just... They're awful. So, those are the unintentional tankings, the unintentional rebuilds, where GM's like, okay, I can fix this. I have to bring in all these veterans. These guys are free agents, and I can bring them in, and I can cobble together a lineup that will compete and get them into the playoffs. And it just doesn't work. So, Philly, the path they're on right now is the right one. I don't think it's a fast one. I don't. But really, isn't the goal to create a champion and not just to create a playoff team? That's the thing for me, is when a team is trying to create a champion and not just a team that competes for and gets into the playoffs to make some extra revenues. I really respect that. And so I do think Hextall's on the right path. And I think this statement about Nolan Patrick is the right statement to make at the right time. It takes some pressure off Patrick going into this training camp, and it takes pressure off anybody who's maybe on, maybe off that roster. I'll be excited to see what Philly does, because that 10-game winning streak they had last year, I don't think that was fake. I don't think that was a fluke. I think that was a sign of what this team can do when they're firing all cylinders. They just couldn't maintain it. At some point, I think they'll be able to maintain it. So let me know what you guys think if you're a Flyers fan. Let me know in the comment section below. And again, when I talk about general managers, I really don't think there's very many general managers right now that I would say he's bad at his job. There's 3 or 4 that I could probably pick on for certain moves they've made. But in general, we've got 31 teams with 31 competent general managers. General managers are much better now than they were 25 years ago in the NHL. There's a much better support staff, and teams are just better. That's why the whole prospects thing comes up. It's really hard to grade prospects because teams are better. It's not just 1 or 2 teams that are really good at developing prospects. Teams are just better top to bottom. So again, thanks for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And I wish only the best for this Nolan Patrick kid, for Ron Hextall, and for the Flyers. even though I don't necessarily cheer for them. It's just weird that I have so many bloody jerseys of theirs. It's probably the fact that it's orange and black. And the combination of orange and black, I like it. And you'll find that out when I get the other jersey too. But that's for another time and another video. And for tonight and for right now, that's it from me. I'll talk to you again soon.